Hi everyone, thank you for coming again. We're here today for another careers event, and today we have Robert. Robert's Solent Alumni. Robert, if you'd just like to introduce yourself, tell the students a little bit about the course you did and how you've progressed on and what career you've gone on into.
Okay, so I graduated from audio technology in 2006, quite a long time ago now. I initially started at Solent to do what at that point was called broadcast technology. So the intention was to go into broadcast engineering in radio and TV. But over my time at Solent, I ended up working in various venues around Southampton. So the Joiners is still there. Lennon's no longer exists, but it's called something else now. But there were lots of live music venues. I started working with the various bands, mixing bands in the venues, and kind of got involved in live music. And off the back of that, bought some equipment, set up as a freelancer, doing some touring with some bands, and eventually got known for having equipment and set up as a company providing sound and lighting for events. So the company I now have is Event Production Services. We provide all technical services for any kind of live events, whether that's festivals, corporate sort of conferences, things like that. At the moment, obviously, as you would imagine, we're doing a lot of streamed events, and yeah, any kind of live events, and then we also do, alongside that, we do a lot of AV installation in schools and nightclubs, pubs, any of that kind of thing. So we're quite diverse.
Brilliant. That's really interesting to know. Definitely, as an events graduate myself, I'm really interested in all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, going forward from that, really, when you were at university, how did you make the most of your experience? Were you involved in any like societies? Did you have any kind of work experience that got you into the events industry, or
all of the above, really? So very early on, the way I actually ended up working at the Joiners and Lennon's was I met a technician who was working in the Students' Union. Back then, the Students' Union was three. I think it's moved even which building it's in now, but there were three bars, and one of them had a sort of a live music setup. I met the technician who was working there, and he also worked at the Joiners and Lennon. So I got to know him through that. When he moved on to doing more and more at the larger venues, he sort of called me and said, "You've mixed a few bands, you can go and try one of these places." So it was very much a who you know, but it was being there right at the start and going out, seeing someone doing something technical in the Students' Union and just going up and having a chat was really what set me off on this career path. Alongside that, I mean, prior to coming to university, I'd also done discos and run a bit of live sound with some local bands. I'm from Oxford originally, and sort of did bits with live bands and had a sort of a very basic PA business back then. At uni, I met Martin, started doing work in the venues around Southampton. Also, I got involved in what was then called SYN Radio, because it was Southampton Institute when I started there before it became Solent University. My first year was Southampton Institute, and it became the university in my second year. So I was the technical manager for the student radio station in my first year, first and second year, and then became the radio station manager in my final year. I also took on over the summer. I got a job working for an AV installation company who did broadcast and theatres and radio stations. So we kitted out a load of radio stations all over the country, which was my first foray into that side of things. And then in my final year at university, I was also what at that point was called an open portfolio officer within the Students' Union. I don't know if that role still exists, but it was within the Students' Union body. It was someone who wasn't linked to any particular aspect of student life, but could work with the Students' Union to improve access for students to various things. Obviously, one of my key things was working within the broadcast side of things, sort of working with getting the radio station better known and dealing with a lot of the marketing side of that. But just getting involved in anything technical at the university, really.
And what tips and knowledge would you give current students? Obviously, it's difficult to kind of look at a way forward in the events industry the way it currently is at the moment. But I think like connections you've said are really important at university. How would you, what advice would you give to current students looking to go into the sound technology events industry?
I think, yeah, the key things are find out who your local production companies are. If it's events you're interested in, the technical side of events, find out the local production companies, the local venues. Even one of the issues we're facing in the industry at the moment is that a lot of technicians that we've worked with over the years, because the industry relies so much on freelancers, people who are self-employed, a lot of them have had to go off and get other jobs. And I envisage there being a real shortage of skilled workers when events return. So students getting involved now, getting to know their local production suppliers, will be in a great position when things return, because there will be lots of us out there who are desperate for decent quality technicians to come and work with us. And we're already seeing it now. The few days when I need one or two extra people, it's harder now to find a technician than it's ever been, despite the fact that no one's got any work. It's a very strange thing, but they're all out driving vans for Ocado or stacking shelves or whatever. And a lot of the older people who are maybe reaching the end of their career have actually moved on entirely to get a desk job, maybe in engineering, civil engineering, something like that. And so there's definitely a skill shortage going to be coming up going forwards. So yeah, get to know the local companies. The other thing is also, in terms of the course, just because a particular topic doesn't necessarily seem that relevant at this point, don't discount it. When I was doing audio technology 16 years ago, whatever, there was a big element of it then, and you'll probably find this quite amusing now, but there's a big element then was all about networking. We weren't doing a computing degree, but we joined the computer networks course for that module, and there were a lot of us on the course who at that point, we were going out to do engineering type things, but working with analog audio, and a lot of us couldn't really see how this all linked together at that point, and it wasn't necessarily really explained to us. Fast forward now, I mean, you can't imagine trying to do any kind of event without some element of computer networking in there, be it a streamed event like this where you're dealing with RTMP feeds and things like that, or a live event where maybe your audio is using a networking protocol called Dante, or any of these. So just because you can't necessarily see the link between what you're studying and your intended career path doesn't mean it's not there. And there are skills that I learned back at university that have suddenly come to the fore now, just with the change, with having to move much more into a data-based world, much more networking in what we're doing, even than a year ago, 2 years ago.
Perfect, thank you. And also, obviously, now you're self-employed. What advice would you give to students that are looking to maybe take that leap to starting their own business after university? Or
don't do it. You need a lot of drive. It's very hard work. So you really need to understand that you're going to be working long hours. You've got to be self-motivated. It's great when you can do it, but there's this misnomer that people who are self-employed or run their own businesses are sort of completely in control of their own time, and you can pick and choose what you do. It's almost the opposite. The buck stops with you. So I've got a company, I've got employees here, but when it comes to the end of the day, if there's things left to do as the business owner, I've got customers that I've got to make sure that they, we're fulfilling whatever they've asked us to do. I'm the one that stays late. I'm the one that's here all the time. I'm the one with the lack of social life. So it's very rewarding, and there is an element that you can take some time out at certain points, but the events industry particularly is very seasonal as well. So if you're into skiing and winter sports, then the chances are you can go and do that. But if you imagine yourself going on having a summer holiday, sitting on the beach, there's not. If you're in the live events or the music side of things, festivals and things like that, there's not a lot of that. You know, you're working all summer long hours, and it is long hours. You've got to be someone who's got a lot of stamina, because it's quite easy to be doing 5, 6, 20-hour days in a row. It's not as glamorous as people make out. It makes up for it in many ways. It's a fantastic thing. We're all a family. We're all very close in this industry, and it really is a massive cottage industry. You can meet someone, talk to them for 5 minutes, and you'll realize you've got 10 or 20 people in common. It really is like that. And so it can be massively rewarding when you're out on site at a festival for a long period, having a drink at 2 a.m. when you've just finished, before you're getting up at 8 a.m. There's a lot of camaraderie there, but it's hard work.
Yeah, I can imagine, definitely. So obviously at the moment, while things are kind of a bit quiet, what would you advise with regards to any qualifications or any kind of other ways of getting experience or training for students that are interested in going into this industry?
So a lot of manufacturers have actually made their training free at the moment. So depending on which bit of the industry you're looking at, because we span quite a lot between the live events, the AV installation. We also do some management of some venues and some other things. But a lot of equipment manufacturers, where you might ordinarily have to go and sit a training course to get a qualification with them at the moment, or an accreditation, they've put all their training online. So and free to access. So I would definitely say start by looking at bits of equipment. If you're interested in, if you want to be a live sound engineer and you're interested in Soundcraft mixing desks, Midas mixing desks, Yamaha mixing desks, get online. You can do the training for those things. Get ahead. That's the key thing. There's loads of things out there that people can find and can get on top of. And then going full circle, go back and make those links with organizations. Find out your local production companies, find out what equipment they're using, get to know that, so that you're useful when things start up again. And I can't say enough, networking, computer networking, get your head into VPNs, VLANs, anything to do with that, because that from the technical side of events, every bit of equipment pretty much now has some element of networking involved.
Brilliant. Is there any specific websites that you know of that students can go on to find that information? Or
off the top of my head, the one that springs to mind is always Ordinate, who are the manufacturer of the Dante networking protocol. So they develop a protocol and they license the chipsets to go into other bits of equipment. And that, in the audio world, and I'm an audio engineer, although my business does sound, lighting, staging, power, etc., I'm primarily an audio engineer myself. That is the largest audio networking standard in the world. So that would be a key one to look at. I can certainly, if people want to drop me an email, I can send through some more things off the top of my head. I mean, there's loads. So going
on from here, really, what are the most important skills for you that you've kind of learned over your years of being in the events industry? What kind of is the most important skills that you would say are needed for a career in the events industry?
It's a real balancing act between being technical and being amiable, because you can have the most technical person in the world, but if you've just finished a 20-hour day that's had a few things go slightly wrong in it, you need to be quite relaxed. A lot of it is mindset and your approach to your work. So being thorough but relaxed and approachable are key. Attention to detail is something that I find a challenge to find in people. So those people that look at a job and notice when a cable's hanging through midair or something that should really be taped into a corner. People have a wider awareness. The days, I do think it used to be probably just before I really entered the industry, you had one company that did audio, one company that did lights, one company that did power. And that is still at the real highest level, that's still very true. But more and more, as you're getting into the industry, there's a need to be multi-skilled. So just being able to do sound, or just being able to do lights, or just being able to do video isn't enough now. Because of the prevalence of networking now, actually, again, those three are more and more related. So it is easier to be a multi-skilled technician in some ways now. We certainly struggle with people who are able to work across multiple disciplines. And at the lower levels of the market, and as you're working your way up, you do have to be multi-skilled, unless you're fortunate to find your way into a company that just does one discipline.
Yeah, brilliant. So from here, really, is there any contacts or anything that you could give students based on your career so far, or any kind of industry?
I have to be a bit careful because people aren't that keen on having their contact details handed out necessarily. I would say certainly down your way, for current students, do stick your head into all the music venues. So Joiners, 1865, the Guildhall, whatever else is still down there. And I do come down to Southampton reasonably regularly, so I've got a reasonable idea. Stick your head in there, go and speak to the technician, whoever's working, and just say, look, I'm doing a degree in audio technology, live and studio sound, whatever it is. I'm really interested in getting involved. Can I come and shadow you? Or or get in touch. The Guildhall's a great one because they use all the local production suppliers. So sort of reasonably local to you. There's BCS Audio, there's Expression Events, GLS, who are a lighting company. There's actually a real pocket, PK UK. There's a real pocket of really high quality production companies around between Bournemouth and Portsmouth, that sort of bubble, and Winchester. So yeah, just look them up. If you look for sound audio company in Southampton, your usual kind of Google searches or whatever, or again, do drop me an email, because I can certainly I can pass on some details a bit more directly to people. And for anyone who's a bit further afield, we're up in Oxford. We're always happy for people to pop in and come and see what we do and get involved in doing some prep and whatever work experience. We're always open to work experience, and most companies are quite happy for you to come and shadow them.
Thank you. That's really good. And also, if we can have your LinkedIn, just so students are aware and they can connect with you if they have any more questions, that would be really good. Just
search for Robert Nisbet on there. I'm sure there's more than one person with that name, but I'll be the only person with a company called Event Production Services, so that should be reasonably easy to find. There's quite a few because we've continued having quite a lot of links with the Media Tech program anyway. So for anyone who wants to grab my email address, if you speak to Polly Hickling, the course leader of Media Tech, of the Media Tech faculty, she can put you in touch. And yes, Alice, I can see you just put that into the chat there. Yes, that's the right email. Quite happy for that to be handed out.
Brilliant, thank you. It's been really good to get to know you, and I'm sure that students would love to connect with you and find out more information about what you do. It sounds really good. So thank you for your time today.
It's definitely a lot of fun. Yeah, I've probably been a bit negative there. It's hard work and it's a long slog, but it is a lot of fun. And like I say, you really do build a family around you. So it's very different to working in an office or even working in a studio or whatever.
And I think with everything going on at the world at the moment, everyone's kind of coming together, especially in the events industry, where we're all kind of looking forward to better times. So
it's been fantastic. That's a really good point, actually. Yeah, one of the things that I've really discovered in the last few months, there's lots of competition in the events industry, particularly on the audio side of things. Everyone's a sound engineer, everyone's got some audio gear. But actually, in the last 10 months, companies who are notionally competitors have really been helping each other out. And as we're all moving across into doing more and more streaming, which is sort of slightly more of a broadcast role than an events role, that my experience has been other production companies we've been lending each other equipment, we've been lending each other personnel just to help everyone survive at the moment. And it's really been eye-opening and quite touching, really, how generous people have been in the industry. It is a massive cottage industry, and everyone is really good friends.
I think it's really nice that everyone can come together in that way as well and support each other. It's really nice to hear that that's happening. So yeah, but thank you so much for joining us today. I think Alice has put the email, your contact details in the chat, so students will be able to get in touch if they'd like. But yeah, thank you for your time. It's really good having you here today.
No problem, you're welcome.
Thank you. I'll pass over to Fran now, if that's okay.
Yep, see ya.